Hello, everybody. My name is Khali Henderson. I am the Chief Content Officer at BuzzTheory. We're a revenue marketing agency serving the B2B tech industry. I'm excited to be part of the RevTech Summit, and I wanted to give a big shout out to Signals for hosting this virtual event and inviting me to speak about revenue technology. However, I'm actually not going to speak about RevTech, at least not the kind that you deploy in your firms. I'm going to talk about what's probably the newest and most consequential revenue technology to impact us in decades, and that's AI search. I'm also going to talk about how to drive revenue with AI search using generative engine optimization. First, let me tell you a little bit about me and my journey and how I got here. So I started out as a tech journalist covering the emergence of the internet, which really just changed everything for us. It laid the foundation for interconnected business, e-commerce, cloud computing, and all the tools that we rely on as businesses and as marketers. After two decades running some tech publications, I went down the marketing path or over to the dark side, as they say. 10 years ago, my partner and I started BuzzTheory, a specialty agency that's focused on RevGen strategies for B2B tech firms. So what we do is we help them to communicate the value of their products to decision makers and also to and through their distribution channels. Today, we support the generation of billions of dollars in annual revenue through digital, social, and content marketing. And as far as we could tell at the time, last year we were the first group to formally announce a generative engine optimization practice. Of course, a lot have followed since then, but some of our clients now count AI engines among their top traffic referral sources. And to answer the burning question, yes, AI traffic converts. In fact, we found that because of the deeper context of the interaction with AI search, it converts at a higher rate than most other traffic. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, how to drive that revenue using GEO. So let's start at the beginning. What is GEO? So generative engine optimization means optimizing your content for AI search with the goal of being featured in the AI snippets or other AI outputs like research documents. Some of the examples of the popular AI search engines that I'm sure you're all very well familiar with and probably use, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Google Search Labs. Of course, the benefit of being featured as a source in generative search results is the potential for a user to click through your website to learn more about your company and, of course, hopefully become a customer. So basically the same kind of objectives that we have with SEO. So why is this important? Well, as users have become increasingly dependent upon AI to speed up their days and navigate their world, placement in AI search results has become increasingly important. No doubt you've heard the Gartner stat that half of traditional search will be lost by 2028. So that's not only a big shift, but it's a really fast shift. However, what I want you to take away is that half of all traffic is still expected to come from traditional search. So like so many things in marketing, it's not either SEO or GEO, it's both. So let's zoom in and talk about an example of how this works. So on the left is a Perplexity search result for internet failover, and it's featuring one of our clients. They turn up as a featured source at the top and in the text result. They are also the featured source in the Google AI search on the top right-hand side of the page. Below that, if your eyes scroll down, you can see they're also the top result in a traditional search. So I use this example because it demonstrates several things. One, you can rank for both SEO and GEO. It also dispels the myth that only big brands can rank in Google following the helpful content updates. Our client in this situation competes with many Fortune 100 companies that offer internet services. It also shows that the result is sticky. So it's been appearing among the top results since we launched our GEO practice more than a year ago. So the perplexity result that we showed you was from a year ago, and the Google result was from last week. So most importantly, it shows that GEO is actually worth the effort. There are also other benefits tied to revenue and intention when you're dealing with AI search. So if you ask ChatGPT, what are some good companies for internet failover services? Our client appears in that list. Another scenario is that if a prospect was investigating the company following a sales call, asking ChatGPT if they're a reputable provider of internet failover services, um, ChatGPT would say they're reputable and also provides a customer quote. So one of the things you should know is nobody's really talking about this, but when we think about optimizing for AI search, we also need to think about the many ways that people will be using AI to help them do research and make purchasing decisions. So now let's zoom out more. If you look at the evolution of search optimization, AI search takes us further into the minds and intentions of the users. So we're moving from a focus on keywords to a focus on semantics, which is basically understanding entities, people, places, and things, and their relationships between them to provide relevant search results. Now we're moving to focus on user intention. What a user wants to know with GEO. Another way to look at this really is the evolution of traditional SEO and GEO is to think about the entire process moving to a more comprehensive discussion with users, of course, but also with the machines that are looking for that. You want that conversation to be meaningful and thorough so they don't go somewhere else to get answers or a complete picture, and to give AI deeper contextual signals. We'll discuss some of this in more depth later in the presentation, but let's talk about 4 GEO trends. The first is that shift to intent-based content. As I mentioned earlier, when we think of AI and how useful it is as an assistant, we need to evaluate how accurate it is for our intent. That's how we show whether it's valuable, whether it's doing its job. Did it serve up the information that we wanted? Setting aside all the technical considerations, you can look at the goal of AI development is being better understanding you, what you want, and how to help you. From a macro perspective, that's what GEO is aiming to do, align with user intent. So we're thinking about user queries as conversations, not keywords. Mapping query chains and follow-up questions, delivering high-value, meaningful, original content, not just for search visibility, but for user engagement and conversions. The number 2 trend is conversational search patterns. So an emerging theme that you might be hearing is that AI interactions are more conversational. It makes sense. They're called chatbots. In practical terms, it means that we need to wrap keywords in more conversational strings. So instead of saying something like the best pizza in Chicago, we're going to say, what are the best deep dish pizza places on the north side of Chicago? This trend will only grow from here as there are more voice searches, more interactions, and also the development of increased contextual retention within the AI models themselves. So what does that mean? It means that AI is able to access the context of a query through previous chats rather than starting from scratch. Keep in mind that this evolution is happening really fast. So you've probably noticed how much more context AI can retain in the conversations you're having with it compared to 2 years ago. And it's only going to get deeper, better, and smarter. And as we've seen, AI is evolving exponentially. So, number three is multimodal AI. So, the headlines these days are all about AI generating multiple forms of content, right? But what those of us on the RevGen side really need to focus on is how AI is processing multiple content forms. It searches for relevant context to determine the helpfulness of your page, whether the content actually makes sense. Your content planning then needs to be multimodal, integrated, and unified. So, many of the efforts that you're taking for accessibility, so putting in transcripts, meta descriptions, alt tags, image titles, all of that apply here. So, you're not going to have to totally reinvent the wheel, but what you need to do is be more descriptive and make sure what you're saying relates to the content on your page. So instead of just saying a man sitting at a desk to describe a picture, what you would want to say is the man is sitting at a desk and he's thinking about maybe his financial future and what he needs to do to make investment decisions, something like that. So, something more descriptive and related to what you're talking about on your page. So, in general, the idea of optimizing around AI search is expanding on what you need for SEO. So instead of blips, you're being more descriptive. And it's not just for accessibility, but to help AI understand because it will know if it belongs or if it doesn't. Interestingly, we're in a really weird time. So, on the one hand, AI enables us to make a lot of content, bad content, but a lot of content fast. And yet, AI search makes high value content more important than ever. So, another takeaway here is that SEO and GEO are more aligned than not. So, success with SEO can increase the chances of success with GEO. But there are far fewer opportunities or slots available with AI search. So you have to take steps to compete aggressively for those. Okay, the next one, the last one for the geo trends is AI oriented indexing. So indexing is basically something you do for AI queries by organizing data in a way that helps AI systems quickly find and understand the information. So if you think of it like a library catalog, I don't know, that's probably a dated example because probably most of you have never seen one. But when you search for a book, the catalog helps you find it faster by knowing exactly where it's stored and what's it about. Um, Similarly, when AI systems index data, they break it down, categorize it, and store it in a way that makes it easy to retrieve the most relevant information when someone is asking a question. This allows AI to provide more accurate and quicker results when answering queries. So, some things that you can do is align your key data attributes, so structure, authority, references, and citations in a consistent way because AI understands those patterns. The more aligned you can make some of these processes, so like the methods of citation, for example, with high value training data, the more successful your AI optimization. So just remember that AI models are trained on data sets. So it goes looking for things that are alike. So more pharma citation is better than casual citation. You also need to develop some new metrics to assess the progress. And we're going to talk a little bit about this later, but some of the things you can be thinking about is ways to assess inclusion rates, traffic, conversions, things like that. Now we're going to talk about 4 GEO principles that will help you compete more aggressively, as I advised earlier. Number one is natural language optimization, which should take into account the balance between human readability as well as AI understanding. Um, as discussed, though, this is increasingly becoming really just a matter of becoming more conversational, period. You want to see clarity and conversation flow. You want to leverage data and relationship structures. So those are the things like internal linking and content pillars that you want to incorporate when you're planning your content. Number two, context matters, and it matters a lot. Map your topics, entity relationships. Remember, entities are people, places, and things, and information hierarchies to deliver more comprehensive answers to any of the queries that people are making in AI search. So you also want to support your content with credible evidence, references, and citations to establish credibility with both AI. And obviously, when they get to your site, you want to establish that credibility with users. So, no, one interesting angle on AI is a constant focus on user intent. As a result of the number of people going to your site, may not be as high as it is now under the more traditional environment, but the people that are coming to you from AI search are going to be more qualified. And that's why there's a higher conversion rate from AI search queries. It makes sense because you have a much more qualified prospect that's coming to your site. Number three is query pattern analysis. So you know that user flow data in Google Analytics, which mostly matters to SEO and CRO practitioners. Well, now content strategists need to be looking at that too in order to tailor their content and query journeys to user intent. However, if you don't have enough data yet or are just starting out, a shortcut is for predicting those flows is to go to an AI search engine and look at the suggested follow-on searches. This will give you additional content ideas about what your audience wants to know so they don't go somewhere else, like a competitor, for the answer. Another GEO principle is semantic clustering. So what that means is that where you need to develop topics that are related and create networks of content instead of one-off pieces. So doing that, adding that structure to your content makes it easier for AI to understand it. You might be thinking that this sounds a little tedious, but it's worthwhile because of a few things. It gives your content teams a lot of richer context to work with. It signals to AI search that your content is more relevant to a search query. And it offers greater opportunities for aligning with the many ways users might ask a question, because not everyone asks questions in the same way. So you could be missing out, right? Um, So we've covered a lot of ground so far, a lot of background, but now let's talk about how to integrate GEO into your operations. And don't worry, it doesn't have to be difficult. Um, Having a consistent approach will help you with speed and scaling your content operations for a new AI environment. So what you want to do is implement structured data markup that helps AI understand the relationship between content on your page. Create AI friendly content hierarchies, things like clear parent child relationships or, topic progression from one thing to another. You also want to develop content templates. So this will make it easier for you. It will speed your production up, but it also helps AI with pattern recognition because it will align more with query patterns. You also want to establish some internal leaking strategy, help to build those entity relationships. Remember, entities are people, places, things. It also signals authority and it helps to establish content hierarchies or query journeys. Another thing that you can do to integrate GEO and compete successfully for both SEO and GEO at the same time is apply a hybrid approach to content development that will help you optimize for both. So you're going to be using traditional SEO elements like meta descriptions and keywords, URL structures, those kinds of things, as well as AI optimized elements such as natural language expansions, related concepts, also more contextual information. In the example that's on the right side of the screen, you can see how that changes. So if you look at traditional SEO keywords for coffee brewing, for example, you're going to be looking at things like best coffee brewing methods, how to brew coffee, a coffee brewing guide. Those are very typical of what you're probably doing today. You also need to add the AI extensions, which are things like the flavor profiles, the equipment comparisons, troubleshooting common issues, things that are more expansive that build on those topics. And if you look into the bottom right, you can see the example that's combined that has the SEO tag at the top, the H1, and then featured answers underneath that are much more elaborate and go into that detail. Another way to compete is with content layering. So the idea is to have a top, middle, and bottom layer. The top layer would be more the direct answers for AI, featured snippet type answers, voice search responses. The middle layer is a little bit more detailed with natural keyword usage, more comprehensive information. Real world examples also are great. The bottom layer is going to be a lot more technical. So with technical specifications, more detailed data, expert level information, and also some keyword optimization. A couple more ways to compete for both SEO and GEO simultaneously is to implement metadata, also again for both the traditional CEO as well as the AI additions. You also want to um, focus on excuse me, internal linking strategy, keyword, rich anchor text, which is an SEO strategy, as well as natural language variations, which is an AI strategy. And lastly, focus on building for authority. So that's comprehensive coverage, regular updates, authoritative backlinks, all the things that you're used to doing today for SEO. So, lastly, and probably most importantly, we need to know how to measure success. So AI search is moving super fast. And what we used to consider a lengthy development cycle, we now call Tuesday. The good news is that we've demonstrated here you can be successful and your efforts can stick if you stay on the top of your game. You can't wait for tools and standards to emerge to track your efficacy of your programs. So what you need to do is take a snapshot of your key metrics and compare them against, again, the following month. And obviously they should be growing. If they're not, then you need to figure out who's getting better placement and why they are and make your content adjustments. Things that you can do to measure right now are, of course, Google Analytics. You want to look at referrals from AI search engines and chatbots. You also want to look for visibility in and conversations from AI search. So the deeper connection with intent should be bending towards higher conversion rates. You also want to monitor your efforts against traditional SEO results so you can gain in both if you're disciplined in the steps we've covered here and have high value content. Another thing is that the major SEO tools are beginning to provide some rudimentary analytics. So you should look for those things like that you were featured in a snippet. The other thing that you're going to have to do is manually test your proof points. So actually do some searches yourself and to make sure things are working. Okay. So who's going to win and who's going to lose in this new search environment? Well, the winners are clearly going to be the subject matter experts, people that are putting out deep content, research-based content developers, anyone who's working at conversational multimedia. These are the people that are going to shine in this new environment. The losers are going to be copycat content developers, people that write generic content that doesn't have any vertical expertise, a generic SEO firm, or really anyone who has to ask ChatGPT to write this for me is probably not going to perform well. Um, So a few parting thoughts. We covered a lot of technical ground here, but at the end of the day, what you need to be doing is creating helpful original content for your audience. If you've done that, you've really won half the battle. The other thing is that SEO and GEO at this point anyway are more aligned than misaligned. And if you can rank well for SEO, you have a much better probability of ranking higher for GEO, especially if your content is doing well following the helpful content updates. However, you still need to tailor it, your content specifically for the AI search. Uh, the other thing is you need to remember, add the AI friendly components. There aren't as many spots open, so you have to compete harder to win them. And lastly, it turns out, after all, that experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness really does serve you well. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you found this presentation helpful as an overview and several tips that you can put into practice today. Feel free to ping me if you have further questions or want a copy of the presentation, and good luck with GEO.